The election of 1968 was pure drama. It all began with a biblical fall from grace for the Democrats. See, just 4 years earlier, they had won a two-thirds majority in both houses of Congress and a landslide win for Lyndon B. Johnson as president. But then he made the fatal choice to involve America deeper and deeper in the Vietnam War. Some of the harshest criticism came from within the anti-war faction of the Democratic Party itself. They hoped to replace Johnson with Eugene McCarthy. After barely winning the first primary of the season in New Hampshire, Johnson dropped out. The field looked clear for McCarthy, but then two new challengers entered the race. Robert Kennedy, brother of JFK, also competed for the anti-war vote, whereas Hubert Humphrey, the sitting vice president, ran as a candidate of continuity. On the evening of June the 5th, as Kennedy was celebrating his victory in the California primary, shots rang out. Kennedy was dead. On the other side of the party line, Richard Nixon was preparing to take advantage of the situation. Kennedy's assassination was just one more data point in a long series of bad news. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed just a few months earlier, while riots and violence at protests dominated the news. Nixon centered his campaign around appealing to what he called the silent majority, portraying himself as the law and order candidate. He faced the danger of being outdone on this issue by a third-party candidate, George Wallace. His most famous slogan was "Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever." The Democrats, meanwhile, were preparing to embarrass themselves. An anti-war protest held in the vicinity of the Democratic Party's convention, which was in Chicago that year, was viciously attacked by the police. When some of the delegates denounced the actions of the police, Chicago's Democrat mayor, Richard Daley, was incensed and cussed them out on live TV. Humphrey may have easily won the nomination, but the entire nation had just seen how divided the Democratic Party still was. A great October surprise dropped on the 31st of that month, when Johnson announced a breakthrough in peace negotiations with North Vietnam. But then the very next day, South Vietnam said that there was no breakthrough. It looked like Johnson had tried a clumsy move to shore up Humphrey's support in the last days before the election. In reality, Richard Nixon was secretly lobbying the South Vietnamese government with promises of getting them a better deal if he became president. Nixon won, but his disregard for playing fair caught up with him 6 years later, when he became the first president ever to have to resign.